Hello, and welcome to another episode of season 3 of the Online Hustle podcast sponsored by Avast. Today, we're joined by Emily Baker from Crazy Flippin Mom. Thank you so much for joining us today, Emily.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So in this episode, we're diving into how Emily turned reselling into a 7-figure business, her experience selling on Amazon and Walmart, and how she's built a brand and community while staying aligned with her values as a mom and an entrepreneur. So Emily, you've built a huge presence as Crazy Flippin Mom, but this journey I know started a while ago with a personal transformation, and I know that entrepreneurial spark started when you were a lot younger. So can you tell us more about how that started and how that shaped your mindset as a business owner today?
Wow, where to even start? Oh my God. And looking back, I'm like, a lot of coffee. I don't even, it feels like a blur because like launching a business and motherhood feels so similar. Sleepless nights, very stressful. You go through this maturing stage where you're figuring out the business. And I actually have 4 little kids. And when I started, 3 of those kids were in diapers. And now my oldest is 16, just got a new car, and that's crazy. But yeah, I've been documenting my journey for a long time. And actually some of my followers found me like day one. So they watched me transform, watched my kids. So it feels like a community, a family. When we get together and network, because networking and community is like number one. And I go to events and we host get-togethers. People bring gifts for my kids. They're like, they feel like your auntie and uncle and your kids are. And I really like that. But my journey does feel, and motherhood feel so similar. I'm interested if that's anyone else's take. Just the stress and like, am I going to be able to do this? Not knowing of, when you have your first kid, it's all so similar. Last night I had my first whatnot show and life selling ever. And it was like that. It was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm ready, and then just doing it and messy. I did it. So, yeah, I don't know what the question was now.
Can you share more about how your personal transformation unexpectedly led you into reselling, and how your early days, that mindset shaped how you are as a business owner today?
Sure. So I was at home with kids and I really felt like I was losing my identity a little bit, and just everything felt like sleepless nights, like I was saying. And I was looking for something that I could develop on my own. And I found reselling. Really, I found people selling stuff on eBay and Poshmark and those platforms. And I was like, well, I can do that like with my own stuff here. And I just really started selling with my own stuff. And it really clicked very quickly. Like I was talking about needing more units like a drug dealer so early. Like I need more and more and more. I really jumped quickly in my mindset, and not knowing the language or anything from I have stuff on here I can sell to like, how do I quickly, duplicate this, get more quantity and launch on other platforms. So it was great because those are low risk platforms that I was able to cut my teeth on, figure it out, make mistakes before I launched on Amazon. So I really understood customer service. I understood shipping. I understood how to scale successfully and knowing my net numbers and understanding bookkeeping. And I had an employee before I launched on Amazon. So, all of those things I was able to really learn for myself. And I think being a mom, how to juggle so many things. And that really helped me. Like sleepless nights was just part of my life anyways. So I think that really put me in a position to dominate the space. And it's really why once I started, I was like, why aren't women here? And they are. I just think it's a very male dominated industry, and women are busy, so we're not always at events and on social media. But once I was like, this could be perfect for women on a small scale, then I just connected the pieces and, launched a community.
All right. So when you first started reselling seriously, what was that moment in your life that you were like, okay, I really got to get serious about this. It's no longer just selling here and there on Poshmark and stuff?
It was really necessity. We needed another stream of income, and my husband's business was affected by COVID. And we could see the writing on the wall, like that's not going to be around much longer, or there's definitely going to be a break. So that's when March was shut down. I remember this so clear. And I had dabbled on Amazon for maybe a year before that, but my reselling business was pretty successful, pretty large, and it's difficult to learn Amazon and do something else. But with shutdowns, my source for buying stopped. And so, or with eBay and Poshmark, my source for buying stopped. And that was March. And that month was my, like, I have to focus on Amazon now because I think that's where I can really scale. And that month I was just shy of $10,000 in sales. And then that really opened my eyes probably to the possibility. And okay, I can do this. I need to buckle down. And it was just a couple months later that my husband actually left his job then to join me because it was so successful. I needed more help. And that we really never looked back.
Amazing. That's great to hear. So you, since then, have become known for mastering retail, reselling, and online arbitrage. For the beginners listening, how do you explain the difference and how should someone decide which path to start with?
Right. So this is a very niche sector, I would say, in the Amazon space. A lot of people hear about private label and wholesale. So they understand there's so much education around those. But for somebody like me, I never had the money to jump into wholesale. Honestly, I just, from my beginning, I could now, but also now my community is around arbitrage. And I really genuinely like this. I started couponing, like I started my journey in a grocery store with coupons and looking around, trying to find the best deal. You scan Amazon and you're like, this is 50 cents in my store and it's selling for $9.99 on Amazon. And I just started putting the pieces together. I was like, wow, I wonder if I contacted the grocery store, how much they would let me purchase. You know, those sort of things led to relationships. I have other stores local to me that they love me. They love letting me come in the back room, look around. And so I really never had that risk of I need $10,000 right now to buy this product and launch and ads. I was selling stuff people already loved. And that's candy. One of the first big breaks for me was Cadbury eggs. They went on clearance after Easter and our stores were stocked and they were like 90% off. And I'm just in the store scanning, you know, like we do, looking for the deals. And I see Cadbury eggs are two packs on Amazon for like $16.99 and they were 50 cents, 60 cents in my store. Done. And I crushed it for like 4 days. All I did, I think the rank on those was right after Easter. So the rank is like under 1,000. They were selling like hotcakes. For days, all I did was sell Cadbury eggs. My house smelled like sugar. And I just took advantage of that opportunity. And I think who better than people who are like couponing, the coupon community, the clearance community with a limited budget, limited time, and you can really scale at your pace.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of, scaling and sourcing, how has your sourcing strategy changed as you've scaled from scrappy beginnings to this seven-figure operation?
Crazy enough, I'm better at sourcing. I'm smarter, you know, year over year. I think this is year 8 for me on Amazon. This is year 4 on Walmart. I still take those beginning principles and am applying them the same. You know, I teach every week in my community, very similar to how I started. When you really understand the numbers and you break down the fees, you're so smart. And people look at a small budget and think that's a handicap. And I've seen so many times where people with limited budgets make smarter decisions and are more successful long term because you really understand like SKU level dynamics, your competition, keep a charts.
Mm-hmm. Where your risks are higher.
Right. So I really, it's evolved, sure. It's changed, but I've really doubled down on clearance in the last 2 years. Clearance is huge in stores. Stores are always trying to move out old inventory and bring in new. And they are looking more than ever to like liquidate pallets. So that is still such a huge part of my business. And I have friends. I feel my biggest issue right now is time, my budget, and I have a lot of my kids. I would be a millionaire if I didn't have kids. The grocery budget alone is insane. But I don't want to scale. I think I'm very unique in this space is I'm not looking to, to do bigger numbers. I really like where I'm at. So, maybe when my kids get older, I'll be looking for a different avenue. But right now, this is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you are looking for products, what are the indicators that tell you this product is worth my time and my money versus others, especially in these competitive markets?
Right. So the beauty of what I do is I'm looking at products people already want. So they already have listings up on Amazon. They have the brand has a following. Like nobody has a following in this industry like Brock's Candy. And Brock's is insane because they will discontinue their most loved flavors, and you just learn these things along the way. And even though I'm not launching my own, nobody loves Brock's Candy more than the older population. But those are things that I know. I love confectionery. I love selling like sweets and baking around the holidays. So I'm looking at listings that are obviously driving traffic, looking at rank, my competition, making sure that brand, which Brock's is typically never selling their own product. So some of the same things that anybody in wholesale is looking at, we are breaking down the listing and doing the same thing. And Walmart is very unique because Walmart knows their buyer. So if it's on a Walmart shelf, they've already done the research to understand their consumer. So when I do a lot of Walmart to Walmart flips, so I'm going into Walmart, buying inventory, selling it back on the Walmart platform as a third party seller. That stuff, I wouldn't say 100% is a sure thing, but very close because a consumer wants it. Walmart does that back end research for you. So it's very different than bringing a new product to Walmart and launching and trying to drive traffic because Walmart also prefers their own catalog over somebody who's launching their own. We also have that dynamic at play too.
Yeah, definitely. And when you're buying products, I know you emphasize buying smart over buying more, right? Quality over quantity, right? What do you think are the top 2, 3 buying mistakes that you see new resellers making that are slowing their progress the most?
I would say not factoring in all the fees, including like what is it taking to get it to a Walmart warehouse, Amazon warehouse? It all probably revolves around fees, and I know that's such a basic answer, but Walmart's returns are insane and it crushes business. If you get on the wrong listing, the consumer doesn't understand what they're getting, and 75% of your product is returned, your business is really dead in the water. So understanding fees, it looks, we have gotten away from the orange bars on social media where we're like, look, I did $10,000 this week because what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. So that's one thing. And also, I think a lot of people in this industry overextend themselves in every possible way, financially, emotionally, mentally. And that just leads to burnout emotionally and mentally. But financially, it can lead to so many bigger issues that you can't sustain this business.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Walmart, you have built impressive success on both Walmart and Amazon. From a seller's perspective, how would you compare the two platforms today?
They're so different. Walmart is in its beginning stages, really. They're just now going through their first evolution and bringing in policies and brands, and it's very painful for sellers. If you are sticking around on Walmart, you're getting hit with so many changes and glitches in the system when they make an update. Where Amazon is a sure thing. It's there. You see the scale. I don't think Walmart has this. I know Walmart doesn't have the movement like Amazon does, the sales yet. I also hear people bring brands over to Walmart, very hard time launching over there. Their ads are not up, rolling like they should be, like when you look at Amazon and putting money into ads. So it's still in the beginning stages. I think it's perfect for me because so many big sellers don't want to take the risk yet. And I don't mind trying it out, testing it out, and figuring out all the flaws, but it can be painful at times. So definitely not the same platforms at all. You need a lot of patience with Walmart, but I think they're moving in the right direction, and they will compete with Amazon at some point, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one step at a time, right? You're always talking openly about challenges like this, right? Account health, restrictions, platform differences. What do you think is one misconception that sellers have about both Amazon and Walmart?
I mean, in my space, people see on social media these quick reels, and I do these 6-second reels, and it's really rage bait, honestly. I get, but then they'll message me and be like, "You said it was going to be easy," or I never said that. But I think sellers typically underestimate the amount of time it takes and money it takes in this to really start seeing momentum and the step backs. How many times have we had to pivot and you're going in a direction like I thought kids clothes was going to be my niche on Walmart and that's how I was going to make it. And then they took it away, overnight. So you pivot and you're like, okay, well, I'm not doing that anymore. That knocks most sellers out, who are already on the fence. We saw so many sellers leave in the last year just because it is a difficult industry to maintain over time.
Yeah, definitely. And with all of these challenges that you've experienced, I mean, I know that this is your full time job and now your husband has joined you. But for new resellers just starting out, if they want to do this, part time, for example, what would be your biggest piece of advice for them to deal with all of these challenges that you're discussing?
I think it's just patience. We in my community right now, we're talking about understanding like how many SKUs, how many units do you need in your catalog to make X amount of numbers, and then how to maintain that. And that all is just an enormous amount of patience. And then half of your catalog gets hit with IPs or suspensions or price suppressions. It just takes time. And unfortunately, how it looked 5 years ago is so much different than today. And I would say it was easier 5 years ago, 6 years ago than it is today. On Amazon, there's more competition, more brands have come to play. So you just can't even sell that stuff anymore as a third party seller. But on Walmart, it just takes an enormous amount of patience. The amount of cases I open, the amount of time I take talking to their support, I'm on this team where we talk to their like representatives and people who lead, merchant fulfillment, WFS. I've never in my life taken so much time just relaying seller issues. So I think new sellers get in, it's going to take a lot of patience, to maintain this. And again, such a basic answer, but it's kind of the way it is.
At the end of the day, it's really with any industry, any job, right? You need patience. You have to start somewhere and grow yourself up. You can't just expect to wake up a millionaire the next day.
Right. I think it is important there's so many paths to take. You can get overwhelmed. Like, what am I supposed to? I can sell so many things. I think the biggest piece of advice is pick one category and understand that niche. I picked grocery and then I niched into confectionery and I really understood patterns. And when people are looking for baking for Easter and Thanksgiving and Christmas, all of those things, that really was a foundational principle for me. Then I just started learning other categories and bringing different types of products in.
Right. Right. And I know you mentioned you just got into that Walmart space about 4 years ago. What was your biggest lesson when transitioning from being mainly Amazon to now making Walmart a strategic part of your brand?
Man, maintaining multiple platforms is difficult. You know, people always ask me, like, what are you selling where? I don't even know. For a long time we had eBay, and so I had so much product. It's difficult to know what should go where, and then like, oh, because I only it's me at home now. I don't have another team coming in, so I have to get shipments out, fulfill orders. And I think for me, when you bring in another marketplace, you need to figure out how to maintain it all. So I have figured that out a little bit, but and then the challenges, like I think keeping both accounts healthy and alive, that's another big hurdle. So doing it all is that all that kind of stuff can just be difficult.
Yeah, of course, of course. So you have sold over several platforms, right? Over the last 8 or so years, you've sold into the seven figures. What do you think has stayed the same no matter what? No matter what platform, no matter what time, pre-COVID, post-COVID, what do you think has stayed the same in this industry?
Oh my God. What has stayed the same? You know, that's a really good question. I don't know. What do you think has stayed the same? I don't know how to answer this. Let me ask
Okay,
you.
so what do you think has changed the most then?
I think the requirements for sellers, those have evolved and become harsher. I think it's harder to sell, harder to get started. And I find a lot of new sellers jump in and then they're like, I can't sell anything. Like it's very difficult to just get that first push. I think that would probably be the biggest. I think last year, with the gating requirements changing, that has been a huge struggle for new sellers. And I think that's why a lot of sellers moved over to Walmart then, because that gating requirements are completely different over there, a lot easier. But what has stayed the same is, the amount of work I put into it really hasn't changed. This is still a full-time job for me. And I could probably make it easier by bringing in help and support, but I put a lot of effort into this. It's definitely not like, oh, luck, you did it. It's a lot of behind the scenes late nights still.
Absolutely. This is like your fist baby.
Yes, and I think because I'm not like growing my own brand and I'm going to sell it at any point, I just have to maintain a balance in my life. This is supposed to work for me. And every month or so, I look at jobs and I'm like, I'm just going to quit, pack it up, and go find a job. And I could never. In Iowa, I think the base pay is still $7.25. I could never, and I'm terrible to work with. I know I'm way too loud. So I think I'm going to get fired immediately. So I need to make this work.
So speaking of that, right, you're a mom of four, you have this full-time reselling career now. I'm sure with these kids, I know they're older, but you started when they were little kids. Boundaries must be key, right? How do you ensure that your business aligns with your personal values as a mom and the life that you're building for your family?
I want this business to pay my bills, buy us groceries, pay everything. And that's what I want from it. So I don't need it to go to the moon right now. And that's why I love to talk about this for other women, because I think it's perfect. But having my husband here, and he does a lot of the kids stuff, is so helpful, because at the end of the day, I'm not doing it all. I'm not making every track meet, wrestle match, after school activities, and doing this. Not even close. And I think that's important to say, because then sometimes women look at me and they're like, you're doing it all. I'm really not. I have a lot of help with him. Thank God he's so supportive and he's so great in that role. So I love that I can work and do what I love, and he's able to like attend everything. He's like the side parent, recording everything, cheering sure it's made. So I feel like we're in our perfect roles, but I definitely couldn't do it without him.
Yeah, that's great to hear because I feel like, especially here in the States, right, we're all about this hustle mindset, right? And even this podcast, the online hustle. And it should be that, but it's also about what you make it, right? Like you are kind of defying the norms, I feel, of what a lot of e-commerce sellers are doing and thinking, again, especially here in the States, right? So, and you mainly working and your husband is helping you out. I feel like it's not, it's more common now, but it's not still the norm. And so I love to see that and that message going out.
Absolutely. People are always like, "What do you do?" Like to my husband. And he is a big part of my business, but that part is really helping the house and kids. And also for women, there are seasons where I go really hard, like Q4, I don't sleep. I work very hard. And if a man were to do that, we're like, wow, Gary V, what? That's amazing. And if we do it, I usually get like, well, who's watching your kids? Who's making them food? You're like, I'm not the only one who cook. So I think that's also very different in this culture and how the people we operate with, but it is changing. And I think showing up on social media is important because it changes that dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And starting again, with these 4 kids and, your husband was working, you started this as a stay-at-home mom. Obviously, there's a lot of risk involved in this business over the years now. Calculated risk taking has definitely played a role in building your brand. How do you personally evaluate these risks before making these big business decisions?
We are very timid when it comes to making big business decisions, and it's probably why I haven't jumped into wholesale. I go to trade shows, I understand what it takes, but because we need so much for our family, so much time, emotional support, money. I think that's where we don't want to overextend ourselves. We want to just like protect what we have. And that's probably a future. So we look at things, we're like, oh, that's a future risk. That's not a today decision we're making right now. We're just going to protect what we have and maintain it. And that's also something most people don't talk about is just like reaching, sustaining, and then living there. But I'm thankful that this business can do that.
That's great. Um, you're always also open about avoiding that scaling just to scale, right? Which comes hand in hand with different kind of risk taking. So how do you stay grounded and focus on the right kind of growth that works for you?
Right. It all comes back to numbers. I feel I'm 100% in. If I see, like, I just went to buy out to all the Christmas clearance, the Christmas candy. I'm paying pennies, and so that's a risk. I jump in. I fill truckloads. I've done the U-Haul and traveled around the country. So I'm okay taking risks that make sense on paper. And so that's where I put a lot of my time into. And anything, though, that I'm like, I don't understand that category, I don't understand that niche, that product, that's going to be a hard no. And I find myself saying no a lot more than yes. But the products that make sense to me, that just I'm buying them for pennies, I'm really all in. So I guess that in itself is a risk that I'm willing to take because not all of it succeeds, but with time. I think that's what it is. It's time. Every year you learn a little bit.
Absolutely. And it's always important to know when to say no also, right? Because I think in this space as well, a lot of people, you must get a little bit greedy, right? And you're just, yes, yes, let's keep going, keep going, keep going. And, more money, more problems, right?
And I try to run my business on cash. We very rarely rely on credit unless there's something that comes out and I'm like, this is insane. I really need to do this. And so I scale very slow because not only does that profit some of it have to go back in the business, but some of it has to cover our bills. And so that's usually what I'm looking at. I'm looking at my bank account and then I'm looking at what's available and then doing the math, breaking down the numbers on the different products and seeing like what's most profitable, how much can I buy, and then I go.
And you have also said that defining what you don't want in business is just as important, if not more important, right, as defining what you do want in business. So what does that look like for you today? I know you've talked about being in a good place and thinking about future risks, not necessarily right now, the kids growing up and everything. But what does that look like for you today?
So that really came out of me trying to keep up with the culture and getting super burnt out. I could scale and I have, but I just was so unhappy that it didn't make sense anymore. Not seeing the kids, not being home. Like I work from home now, but I had an office space, I had employees, and I worked extremely hard. And I was proud of what I built, but like slept there. It still felt like I'm missing things. And so that's where, even though it was money, it just didn't feel like good money to me. And where we had to take a step back and, figure out what's important, when you bring on employees. And maybe this is like low level stuff for a lot of your listeners because you've scaled to the moon. But I think happiness is so important. And family, and I missed events, and I didn't love that. So I will take losses. I will not buy so I can make sure this is still in a spot that I can maintain it and be here for my kids.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an important uh, point and value to mention because, as we said, right, people are always trying to just scale, 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 which is great. I mean, whatever works for you works for you, but it is important to keep that in mind, right? Not just business, business, business all the time, but your personal life, your family, and your happiness because you did this so that you can, help your family and spend more time with them. And then you put yourself in a situation where you're no longer doing that. And then you have to think to yourself, okay, wait, why did I really do this?
Right. And because I'm not launching a product I'm going to sell one day and I'm working towards a payout, I'm maintaining this like a job. So it needs to be where there's that equilibrium where I'm enjoying my day and this is fitting into the places it fits in my life. And that's it. There's no, like, at the end of the day, when I close my Amazon account, there's no big payout, So it's more or less like a job, and I need to have it work for me. And also, like, I'm working from home. I'm going to enjoy my life and my kids and do what I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So this brand that you built, Crazy Flippin Mama. First of all, how did that name even come about?
Yeah. So Crazy Flippin Mom came from when I was on Poshmark probably 9 years ago. That's where Poshmark and eBay, where I started. And like I said, I've always attracted community and I love networking. I would do Posh events in my town. And I started this email list just out of nowhere. And I was like, give me your emails and we'll talk every week. And so in that email, I would say, tell me, like, it would say crazy flippin' and then what crazy flippin' risk, crazy flippin' funds. So that email list, I would like take that and be like, tell me your crazy flippin' flip from this week, like just stuff. That's how it came. And again, then I was like really into the mom life. My kids were home. I was doing battle service and the whole thing. So that name kind of stuck, and people still to this day, I was in another community and they're like, do I have to be a mom to join your community? No, there are men there, but I also like that we carved out a niche for women and for mothers here in this space. So we still protect that.
I love that. And this brand, Crazy Flippin Mom, has turned into a true community. I mean, you do YouTube's, courses, retreats, Q&As, podcasts, of course. What inspired you to build this community instead of just content?
Right. So, like I said, when I started Amazon and I saw the value, I remember telling my husband, this could change women's lives. Like, if they could have this, they could leave a bad job, leave a bad relationship, get out on their own. Like, this could supplement so much. You could buy groceries. Like, think if you could make $2,000 net every month, which is very easy to do in this industry. So thank God I have him. He believes in me, and he was like, yeah, if you think we could do it. So we contacted a company and they built an app for us. So we're in the Apple Store. Any phone you have, you could download it on your phone and it works like social media. And we drained our bank account making that. And again, I'm like, this is year 5 of our community. And I like the risk of that. My husband is like amazing to do that, but he just believed in what it could do. and we launched like January 5th and really never looked back of creating a home for sellers like us. And yeah, people downloaded the app on their phone, joined. It's like social media. I'm live there. I post my finds. I post the crazy and the risk and the bad and all of it. And I attracted other women and men who are doing the same, and and it's $50 a month. So it's super attainable for everybody. And you get access to some of the best educators in the space will come take their time and teach from wholesale and to private label to pricing, all of it. And so it's a way to create resources for other people like me.
Yeah, you've built your own mini Emily Baker masterclass.
Yeah, and I mean, it's 5 years now. For 5 years, I've been teaching live twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. All of that is there. So crazy amount of resources sitting there in that library.
Amazing. See, so you do take risks.
I do. That's true. I do take risks. No, that was like, I felt so sure about that. Like, this could really help so many people. And it has. Like, we see people buying cars, buying houses, quitting their job. That's a big one that they're able to launch out on their own. So that's a huge risk, definitely. I'm so glad we took that one.
Yeah, you could definitely see the impact among the sellers who are connecting through your community.
Thank you. It means everything. It is like a child to me. And when other people succeed, it's like the community is so tight that we all celebrate that. When someone leaves their job or does something, it's a celebration. So we do we're actually doing a Valentine's gift exchange, Christmas gift exchanges, and we have such a good time. So it's nice because the industry can be lonely. If you're working for yourself, it feels very isolated. Even with social media, it feels isolated. So it's nice that you can plug in every week to people. And of course we start on education, but this week our call was like 3 hours. And by hour 2, it's like off in like, what did you buy this week? Your kids' drama. We're all just sharing the tea. And it's like you have a space you can just do that, like upload. And it's beautiful.
That's amazing. And I know through this community, you're always sharing real results, tips from the trenches, you say. Why is this level of transparency such an important part of your storytelling and your journey through this community?
Yeah. So when I got started 8, 9 years ago, I felt like Amazon space was like the mafia. I don't know if you were around then, but it might still be. Maybe I'm in my own bubble, but it was like the mafia to get answers. Like, what are you selling? What am I supposed to sell? If you ask somebody what their store name is, they would blackball. They were like blacklisted. You're out. That was crazy to me. And I think actually I got very popular quickly because I was sharing everything. I didn't know you weren't supposed to do that. So I think there's so much more transparency now, but I've always shared everything. I'm an open book. If you meet me in person, I'm the like queen of TMI. I'm saying what but yeah, I kind of brought that same energy to my community too. And also when you're willing to share your losses, it then creates a sense of like, oh, it's okay to not succeed all the time. It's okay to fall down. And that doesn't mean you're bad at this. It just means you made a bad decision. So I think it's very important to be transparent just to show that like I'm a human and we're allowed to make mistakes.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's super important too, especially in social media days where social media seems very fake and artificial all around. It's important to show that authenticity, right? And not gatekeep, as they say, all of these things that aren't really secrets, but people tend to treat them as secrets.
Right. Right. That was so crazy to me when I started, and I was really like just looking around for answers, and it was hard to get anybody to talk to me because it was like very close circle, tight lipped situation. And I don't know if it's still the same way, honestly, but that was wild.
So before we wrap it up, Emily, if you could go back and give your first year reseller self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I probably have told myself to join community a lot, like find a community, find that space a lot sooner because I made so many poor decisions because I was on my own. And it was very difficult then to find like a Facebook group or anything anyways. But I made a lot of decisions just trying it out on my own. So I think if new people are starting, join a community that is moving in a way you want to move. That's number one, because sometimes people get in and they want to do private label. And I'm like, you're in the wrong space, find another group. So I think that's important if you're going to take a course, you're getting into a community, do that background work to make sure they're actually doing what they say they're going to do. Because that's another thing. This business changes quickly. And if you're not in something that's up to date, a course or community, it's not great material anymore. After a year, it's like outdated. So make sure you're in a space that people are actually selling similar to you. I probably could have done double, just avoiding mistakes. I mean, my biggest mistake when I first got started is I turned off expedited shipping in COVID shutdowns because I didn't know how to ship expedited orders. I didn't know how to charge them. So like that, I could have made so much money shipping expedited that I just didn't know. So I think finding people similar minds and go to meetups, go to events, network, it could change your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And after years of doing this, right, trial and error, which is part of the process, of course, making mistakes, you've built this successful business and this brand, and it's truly admirable what you have done. For you personally, what does success mean and look like for you now beyond revenues?
Sure. I think success for me is to be very micro about it, is being at home with all of my kids. Everybody is healthy and happy and being wild, running around, reading a book, going on vacations in the summer with my kids. Like those little small things, maybe. I think that's what success is to me, like being around for my kids. Because now my oldest is 16 and I realized like that was so fast. I value that a lot more. So anytime I can be present, that means everything to me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. Emily, it's been lovely having you with us today. Thank you so much for sharing not just your strategy, but the real stuff, the behind the scenes lessons that come with building this sustainable reselling e-commerce business. If anyone wants to reach you or join the community, can you share how they can do this?
Sure. Crazy Flippin Mom on every social media channel. You'll Crazy Flippin Mom, you'll find the group, you'll find my YouTube channel, social media, a little bit of everything.
Amazing. If you're watching this and you got value from this episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with other e-commerce sellers who might need to hear this. Thank you again, Emily, and to Avast for powering the Online Hustle podcast. And we'll see you in the next episode.